And so I'm also going to be recording today. So anyone who doesn't want to appear on the recording, just switch your camera off, and you can then listen in blissful. I was going to say blissful silence, but I'm going to mute you all anyway. So that's going to solve the silence issue. Okay, you're all muted, and I need to unmute Jean. Can you unmute Jean? We've got a bit of a problem. She can't unmute.
It's the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. If you move your cursor down to the bottom left-hand corner, it should appear as a symbol.
Yeah, Jean's quite knowledgeable about computers, so I think she realizes that. But for whatever reason,
the reason I wasn't unmuted is I wasn't quite ready because I was just setting up a link that had closed.
Oh, right.
I'm going to go to various other. I'm going to go to Instagram and stuff, so I needed to have those open.
Right. Let me just introduce. Jean. Then Jean is a u3a member with Litchfield u3a, but she spent all her career with international companies and playing with computers, I suspect, almost endlessly. So, so this is a perfect opportunity for us to pick up some of Jean's experience. And over to you, Jean.
Great. Okay. So I'm back on now. Right. Just take you through. I was just setting up a couple of things there because I know we've not got many people here today, so I was actually intending to have this up on the screen before we started, but this talk is intended to cover people who haven't yet set a Facebook group up, and also for people who have set a Facebook group up, but perhaps it might need a bit of added oomph. In other words, you don't want to be scratching around for content all the time. I looked at all the Facebook sites for UK U3As simply by typing U3A into Facebook, and I had a look at how many members they'd got. And very few Facebook sites that U3As have got more than 100 members. And unless you've got more than 100 members, basically the site isn't going to run itself. Somebody's going to have to prompt people to contribute to the site. Many U3As have sites of fewer than 10 members, which suggests that perhaps the site isn't used very much, because I would doubt that 10 members could have much in the way of a meaningful conversation. So the question is, how do you sell the idea of Facebook to your many members who may be quite hostile to the idea? And let's face it, you're never going to get yourself in the position where Facebook is the only thing that you've got to offer your members. You'll never be in the position where all your members are on Facebook. So the normal channels like your newsletter and so on are going to continue. So, but why should anybody pay attention to it? Well, it's got 2.6 billion users globally. Now, those figures are as at January 2021, looking back on 2020. It's probably gone up even more since then. Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, and I don't know if you can just about see, I've put he was actually on The Simpsons because he's so well known. Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, also owns WhatsApp and Instagram, so is pretty dominant in the social media market. He originally developed Facebook, as many of you know, when he was at Harvard University to exchange information with his friends, and it just exploded from there and made him a multi-billionaire. It's the most popular social networking site in the world. The next most popular social media site is YouTube. I'm sure we've all used YouTube. And then WhatsApp. And more U3As are telling me that they're using WhatsApp, which is a phone-based messaging system to contact their various members. And WhatsApp can be very handy to alert people and remind people about events. So I don't know if you're like me, but so often you sign up for an event online, for example, and then forget all about it until the afternoon. Well, if you had something like a WhatsApp prompt, then you wouldn't forget things in quite the same way. So there are various good uses for many of these social media things. Twitter has a lot of followers. Snapchat tends to be for juniors. Instagram has a lot of followers, but Instagram is mainly used by people who follow a brand, and a brand can be a person. So unless there is a particular reason to set up an Instagram account for your U3A, I wouldn't particularly say it was useful. Twitter tends to be for people who advocate causes, so it can be very useful for U3A. I subscribe to Ilkley U3A's Twitter feed, and that's always entertaining. But I would say if you're going to concentrate on any social media platform, Facebook is going to be the easiest and the most ubiquitous one. And others that are worth mentioning are Pinterest, because Pinterest can actually give you content for your groups and for your website and for your Facebook pages. And Pinterest, if you've not come across it, I'd encourage you to just write Pinterest into Google. Pinterest is like a pin board. You sign up for a Pinterest account and you tick the things that you're interested in. And it then picks out those things that you're interested in and puts them into an email. And the email is just like a pin board. And you just click on the various things that you're interested in. So it can be very handy indeed, particularly if you run a group of whatever sort. It tends to be mainly females, but that is changing as we speak. LinkedIn, as you may have heard of that, that's business networking. Very useful if you want to get another job. I've got several jobs through LinkedIn, and actually the first thing I did when I retired was to delete my LinkedIn profile. So very much associated with business. TikTok, I mentioned, although originally it was aimed at 13 to 18-year-olds, it's a video platform and it's growing fast. And the most famous TikTok videos recently have been with older people and younger people TikToking together. So there are a couple of people, young people, I don't know, aged about 18 or so, that have got their grandparents on TikTok performing various tasks. So I think it's worth mentioning TikTok. But Facebook, if you're going to go on social media, is the one. So there's 66% of the UK population already has an account. So although the largest age group is 25 to 34, Facebook is rapidly becoming very unfashionable. And so the age profile of Facebook is increasing. And it's got lots of advantages. It's versatile because it links to practically anything else. It has got better security these days. It can be used on all sorts of devices. It's not Apple specific or PC specific. And it's relatively easy to use because they want you to use it. So they give you lots of help. Against Facebook, well, a lot of people are concerned that they might get bombarded with updates, but you can, of course, set it so that you don't get bombarded. And the number one thing about Facebook that puts people off is the fear about misuse of personal data. And there was a Facebook scandal some years ago where they were found to have leaked their data or sold their data, depending on who you believe, to another company. These days, Facebook is so scrutinized, I would doubt that they would get away with anything like that. In fact, Facebook doesn't get away with much these days because it's such a well-used, well-known platform. So I would say that the fears about misuse of personal data are misplaced. And the only thing about Facebook is, number one, it does change all the time. So I'm trying to be non-specific as much as possible within this presentation because they're always improving Facebook. If I was to show you many screenshots, blow me, the next month the screenshot might have changed a little bit. But in order to administer Facebook or even use Facebook, all you have to do is read the page, because they want you to use it, so they make it easy to use. So how many of your current members have got Facebook accounts? Before you're even thinking about setting up any form of Facebook group, it's worth asking people, have you got a Facebook account already? And if a lot of them already have, then you've got your core already. But I've put here that only 24 U3A groups in the UK have over 100 members on Facebook. And the feeling I get, which is not substantiated by research, is that a lot of Facebook pages have been set up and then have fallen into disuse, presumably because the content hasn't sustained the page. Now, we move to the question of Facebook page or Facebook group. People get very confused about Facebook pages and Facebook groups because, of course, groups have pages. When you post in a group, you're posting on a page. But there are actually two different things within Facebook, a page and a group, and it is important to know the difference between them. The main Facebook pages, you may even wonder why people even came up with the idea, but you'd be amazed the number of things that Facebook can do. There's a whole community of developers out there doing all sorts of things with Facebook, things that you can't imagine that anybody would ever have a use for. And they put them out there just to see if people use them or not. So anyway, let's return to Facebook page or Facebook group. A page essentially is an online advert. And the most important thing to know about it is only an administrator can post on a page. This is slightly confusing for people, because if you go to a Facebook page and you've got a Facebook account, you can like anything on a page, you can comment on anything on a page, but unless you are an admin for that page, you won't be able to post on that page. You won't be able to post a comment. You can only post on only comment on a post that's already there, if you follow me. But it can be really handy for events. That was the original thinking behind a Facebook page. So we've just had U3A Day. The idea is, if you have a group, which is a community, every member can post, sometimes things can get a bit lost. You know, you have to go further and further down the page to find the thing that you're looking for. So if you set up a Facebook page, say for U3A Day, it can be linked to a group, but if you want to put all the information together about, say, U3A Day or any other form of event, you can go to the page, and that page is all about that one thing. And the good thing is that a page can be archived. So if you set up a Facebook page all about U3A Day, when you've finished with U3A Day, you can archive that page, and next year you can bring it out again. You'd have to start from scratch. And so it's just like an online advert, whereas a group is a community and it's there all the time. And the most important thing is you have to sustain interest in it. So let's have a look at Facebook pages or groups in more detail. If you're an admin on a Facebook page, you can see the page insights. So you can see the graphs of page activity very easily. You can have so pages are very easy to set up, very easy to run. But a group is what most of us want to set up, because we want to offer the opportunity for anybody in our U3A to exchange opinions, ideas, and so on. So when you're in a group, you'll get notified every time another member posts, comments, or likes. But if you're with a page, you'll be notified only when somebody likes your comment or tags you in a comment. And we can talk about tags a bit later. And you can have as many people as you like in a group. You can join up to 6,000 groups. You can have up to 5,000 Facebook friends. So Facebook is absolutely unlimited in the way that it can be used to connect people and connect groups and connect pages. There's no numerical limit. So if you want to look at a good example of a Facebook page for an event, Southport Flower Show, this is what they have on their Facebook page. And it very much echoes their website. The Facebook page that they have about Southport Flower Show is very much the same as their website, and you can, run both of them in parallel. So Southport Flower Show, you can see this is the back end of the page. You can put all sorts of things on a page. It has, almost infinite storage capacity. So once you have a page, it can store videos, photographs, all sorts of things, which is why people get confused between pages and groups. The essential difference is only an admin can post on a page. So if you set up a Facebook page, for example, if you want to attract new members, you might want to set up a Facebook page. How many people might you reach? Well, one very useful way of getting more members via Facebook is to create a Facebook advert. Now, the only people who can create Facebook adverts are administrators, Facebook administrators. Facebook administrators don't need any particular skills, but they are the only people who can actually do adverts, because at the end of the day, you have to pay for an advert. Facebook adverts are probably the most cost-effective types of advert you can ever imagine. And I can prove that as we go along. So let's have a look at how many people might you reach if you did a Facebook advert. So it's very easy. I'm using a page here that I actually administer. You go to the drop-down menu and choose Add. And I've put a big arrow in there. Facebook is entirely menu driven. This can drive you nuts at times because there's a menu across the top and there's a menu down the side. So you have to read the page to find out where you're going to. So if you want to set up a Facebook advert, go choose Advert. Then there are various ways that you can advertise things. I've just put a yellow arrow in here about boosting a post, because lots of people have asked me in the past about boosting posts. Posts are also a form of advertising. If you've got a particular item on your page, a particular post, and you want it to reach an awful lot of people, you can actually boost it by paying money to Facebook to advertise that post more widely. But we're talking here about adverts, Facebook adverts. And if you wanted to get started with automated adverts, that's probably the easiest way of doing it. So automated ads. Automated ads, you simply answer the questions. There are a whole series of questions, probably about literally 20 questions that they ask you in order to create your advert for you. And so choose your goal, for example, get more leads, promote your contact information, and it comes up with your estimated daily results. So every day for say 5 days, you will reach between 120 and 347 people, it suggests. So you might reach 1,000 people. Normally, response to a Facebook advert, people quote about 5%. If you're very pessimistic, you might look at 2% response rate. So if you got a 2% response rate, would you still think it was a good use of your money? Let's just put this a bit further out. Your daily budget, they would estimate for an advert would be £3.65. So altogether, they're recommending that in order to reach about 1,000 people, you spend £18.25. Now, at this point, you've spent no money at all, and you can always go back and answer the questions in a different way and come up with different parameters. But for a Facebook ad, £20 is a very decent budget, and it will tell you before you even take out the ad about how many people you will be able to reach. And as the days go by, because typically you take out the advert for 5 days, you can take it out for longer, Facebook will monitor the performance of your advert. And if it's not doing as well as they expect, they'll suggest things that will make its performance improve. So it's an extraordinarily versatile and cost-effective way of doing things, and more of that in a minute. The other thing you can do is promote your page. So Facebook estimates, again, if you're going to promote your page, estimates between 368 and 1,100 people each day will see your page. So adverts are great. Chepstow U3A did a Facebook advert, and this was their page, Live Life to the Full with Chepstow U3A. They created that page, and that page was used as the visual for their advert. That's what Facebook picked up. So they used, clear, nice images. It sounded active, sounded varied. They had a campaign lasting 1 week. This is what Chepstow U3A said. They reached 1,100 people with 200 engagements. In other words, 200 people actually inquired. And over the month, they also experienced a huge increase in hits on the website. And they spent £7, and Facebook gave them a £5 credit as an introductory offer. So it was extraordinarily cost effective. And we also note that Facebook posts since the campaign have reached more people, and over time, our results using Facebook grow. So Chepstow U3A managed to spend £2 and actually managed to engage 200 people who might be interested in finding out more about U3A. So from that, if they only got, if they only got one more member, that would be highly cost effective. So Facebook ads are definitely worth having a go at. And you can go all the way to the line and looking at results and so on before you spend a single penny of money. So let's have a look at types of Facebook groups now. If you decide to set up a Facebook group, which is the traditional thing to do, which lets everybody in your U3A participate, you can choose an open group, a closed group, or a secret group. Personally, if we sort of take it from the right, personally, I don't really see the point of a secret group, except I was invited to one once because people were planning a secret surprise birthday party for somebody. And they were using Facebook to plan it, and they didn't want the person to find out about it. So they set up a secret Facebook group where you're all secretly planning this birthday party. And the only way you can find a secret Facebook group is if you are invited. So it doesn't turn up in search or anything. It's totally invisible. But for U3A purposes, I can't really imagine that you would want your group to be secret, but you will hear about secret groups. So that's what they are. So you can forget about those now. You've got open groups or closed groups. Now, if you have a closed group, then only people in the group can see the content. If you've got an open group, people can see the content. Personally, I would favour an open group, because then if there are people who are not U3A members, they can see the content in the group, and they might even think about joining U3A. And you can very easily, just by changing a setting, change an open group to a closed group. So I would suggest that if you're going to set up a U3A group, start with it being open. And then if you find for whatever reason that doesn't work for you, you can very easily flip the switch and change it to closed. But I would suggest that keeping it open is in the spirit of friendliness and openness and so on. And presumably there's nothing too secret in there. And let's face it, this is social media. So I don't really see why you would want it closed, but there you go, entirely up to you. And in a closed group, of course, the admins have more work because they have to essentially vet people before they join the group. If a group is open, then it can be joined very easily by anybody, and you might find non-U3A members joining. I find that strange, because if it's a U3A group, why would a non-U3A person want to join it? But there we go. So personally, I would say make it an open group and then close it if you find an open group doesn't work for you, rather than starting with a closed group. So why would you use Facebook? Use it to enthuse and inform members. And if you can create a calendar of regular events to post on Facebook, there'll always be something for people to have a look at. If you can involve people, even better, and repost content from other sites and web feeds, and keep linking to your website and to your newsletter. If any of your newsletter editors use MailChimp, all they have to do on MailChimp is tick a box and the newsletter automatically gets posted to social media, including Facebook. So you can keep your traditional communications and involve Facebook as well. So creating social media content. Now, how do you keep it interesting, keep it fresh? Well, nobody creates it all themselves. So if you just want to dip a toe into the water with a Facebook group, just keep it going by posting some regular content. So your monthly meeting, as we go forward, currently your monthly meeting might be on Zoom. Well, that's very easy to record and then post on Facebook. Going forward, you might just want to advertise your monthly meeting on Facebook. You might want to open your monthly meeting to non-members, for example. I don't know about you, but certainly Lichfield U3A, our website is not used too much. Site Builder, which is the website we don't find terribly attractive, and it doesn't attract an awful lot of people to it. We found that since we're posting more and more stuff on events, people go there, but Facebook's a much more interesting and versatile way of advertising events. The other thing is, if you've got a Facebook account, you probably know that the big picture at the top is what attracts an awful lot of people. You can change that big picture at the top very easily. If you change your big picture at the top once a month, then immediately your page looks fresh and interesting and updated. So that's a very easy thing to do. The other thing to do that's very easy is guest group of the month. In our local newsletter, I interview a different group leader every month. So every month we've got a profile of some group or other. We've got over 60 groups. And the group leaders tell me they do get inquiries once it's been in the newsletter. They typically do get more members joining their group once it's been in the newsletter. So guest group of the month is an easy thing to do. Subscribe to appropriate feeds and repost content. Well, obviously there's a national u3a website, there's other Facebook sites, and there's all sorts of other ones. You might have come across Restless. Restless, if you Google it, is a community for the over 50s. Restless as a community wants to sell you things. It's an online thing. Obviously it wants to sell you insurance and I don't know, death benefits and all sorts of things, but they have a lot of interesting articles and features because they want you to go to their newsletter and subscribe to it and then buy the various associated products. But there's a lot of stuff you can repost from Restless. Age UK's got stuff. I was recently in Lichfield Library and came across a publication called Mature Times, which is also online and you can repost from. The other thing I would say that people who look after the groups or the pages are admins, and I would say have admins get together. Don't just have 1 or 2 admins, maybe have 6 or 8 admins. It's not a very onerous job, but get them together every so often so that they can comment on how things are going and can discuss how they might attract more people to the various pages or groups. Now, Charlie Bit My Finger has been in the news recently. I hope everybody's heard about Charlie Bit My Finger. Charlie Bit My Finger is a 2007 internet video. It's the most popular viral video ever. So it just shows you that content doesn't have to be serious or worthy in order to get an awful lot of people to look at it. All it was a baby biting his brother's finger. And I'm afraid I've not set up Charlie Bit My Finger. But I think it was 2 weeks last Monday. It was sold as an NFT, a non-fungible token. And NFTs are springing up all over the place. Content on the internet is now being sold. You probably heard there was an artwork that was sold, a digital artwork that was sold as an NFT for millions of dollars. And in just to give an example of that, in October 2020, this guy, Pablo Rodriguez Fraile, spent $67,000 on a 10-second video artwork that he could have watched for free online. And he sold that for $6.6 million. So NFTs based on internet content are big business. So you never know, if you create a truly great piece of content and you retain title to it, you may eventually be able to sell it as an NFT and make an absolute fortune. So there you go. So let's look at the most popular Facebook page in the world. And as of April 2021, an enormous number of people like this page. I don't know if you know who it is. Well, he's actually going to be the subject of a TV documentary very shortly. And it's Cristiano Ronaldo, who is somebody I'd hardly ever heard of before I started looking at Facebook. And Cristiano Ronaldo is a footballer. He doesn't probably do his own page. He's probably got people doing that for him because he's a billionaire. And what can we learn from his page? He lists all his social media on his page. He has plenty of photos. It's mainly photos, not much in the way of text. And he puts an attractive image up front. I mean, presumably, if you're seeking out Cristiano Ronaldo's page, you think a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo is attractive. So there you go. And he has an enormous number of followers, whereas David Beckham has, you know, a mere 54,000. So it just shows what you can do by promoting yourself on the internet, on Facebook. And Cristiano Ronaldo has at least doubled his fortune since he opened his Facebook page. So let's return to more domestic matters. Ilkley District u3a page, they've got a great lead image. They don't change their image. But on the other hand, they constantly change their content, so they don't have to resort perhaps to changing their image. They have lots of likes, and let's have a closer look at their Facebook page. Well, they link to other related Facebook pages. So other Facebook pages help to keep their Facebook page up to date. And they don't rely on their own content. They pinch something from Stoke-on-Trent u3a because social means sharing, and they did a live link there, and it was a video. So video content's very popular. So ideas for social media, what can you do to entice people? Well, photo competitions tend to be popular. A lot of them, the u3a, honestly, the u3a photo competition is just not particularly well run, in my opinion. If you post a photo competition, you've got to be active. You can't expect people just to post photos. So photos of children and animals are the most popular of all photographs. And this is a good example of how Tough Mudder, who is, they're an organisation that promote mud runs, would you believe, have started a photo competition, and they keep that photo competition going and produce it, do the best photo each day, so they get plenty of photos contributed. Their last photo competition had over 10,000 entries, which does show you what you can do if you promote something. Using humour is always good, appropriately. And the COVID pandemic is all around us, but that doesn't mean that you have to take it all that seriously. Well, you can take it seriously while still delivering quite a serious message. So New Jersey, if you ever go onto the New Jersey government Twitter page or website or Facebook account, which of course is open, New Jersey is the birthplace of Bruce Springsteen. And what they've done is they've reminded people to keep at least one Springsteen of space between themselves and others, because Bruce Springsteen is exactly 6 feet tall. And they didn't ask Bruce Springsteen's permission before they posted this, and he thought it was hilarious and eventually posted back. And New Jersey has been absolutely famous in the social media world for the humour, the wit with which they've promoted their instructions about COVID, of all things. And the humour that they've done it with has actually got the message over to far more people than it would have done otherwise. Their pages now have hundreds of thousands of looks, visits, and there aren't that many people in New Jersey. So it's been incredibly effective in getting their message out. So there you go. It doesn't have to be all serious, even if it's a serious message. So how do you generate great content? Well, here we've got a very appealing looking dog. Now, very appealing dogs and cats are a great way of getting people to visit your page. And Hootsuite are a leading authority about social media. If you want to know how social media is going, Hootsuite produce a report every year in January about the way social media is behaving all over the world. And literally, if you are in Afghanistan, and this is no exaggeration, or Albania, or Australia, or it goes right down to Zimbabwe, you can go on to Hootsuite's site, you can go onto their report, and you can see how the various items of social media are performing in your country. And that's what I did for the UK this year. And it's incredibly detailed. Hootsuite are social media experts. And again, they get their message across with lots of humour. They also offer the facility, because social media the stuff tends to be free. Hootsuite sell stuff to businesses, but they give stuff away free to individuals. So you can have a Hootsuite account. And what a Hootsuite account enables you to do is manage all your social media. If you have, a LinkedIn account, a TikTok account, multiple Facebook accounts, whatever, you can manage it all from one place using your free Hootsuite account. And I know there are some U3As who run kind of 5 or 6 different things on social media, and they do that all through one Hootsuite account. So they put a post in, an item of interest, like a crossword, for example, and they tick the boxes to decide which different bits of social media they want to post that to automatically. They don't have to flog out and go through all the work of doing it all themselves. So social media is designed to be easy to use. And they also produce every month their Fridge-worthy awards. So I'll show you, and please put up with this for a minute, because they are to American girls, and I know it does grate sometimes hearing teenage Americans, but they've actually got some quite sensible advice about how you create great content for social media with the most unpromising of things. So they've actually given a Fridge-worthy award to the Temper mattress people. Now I'm going to just do a new share so that you see what they promoted. Whoops, Facebook Watch. Oh, would you believe it? I think I've closed it. Sorry, I have. I can't believe this. I've actually closed it. Sorry, I'm going to go on to the next one rather than go to that. But basically, their point would be, and I will try and show it to you later, that if you're trying to attract people to your page, put attractive images there. Years ago, I was in Rolls-Royce, and we tried to get the kind of equivalent of Facebook going within Rolls-Royce. Internal business social media. So there's an application called Yammer, which is social media for business. It's just like Facebook, but for business, just for one business to use. So it's an internal thing. And we didn't know how we were going to encourage people to use it. And the communications team brainstormed how they were going to do this. And somebody said, well, what about pictures of cats? And we said, what? Pictures of cats in Rolls-Royce? We're a respectable organisation to do with aerospace and all this. And he said, look, do you want people to go to this site or not? If you get them used to using it, talking about their cats, then we can probably get enough people who are used to using it, and we can slide some information in about aircraft and so on. And, it worked like a charm. So dogs and cats can be a very effective way of getting the most reluctant Facebook user to post something on your U3A page. So I'm just going down now. Whoops. Sorry, I'm back to sharing my screen. Sorry, I've just gone off. It's because I was going to share that. Apologies. Right. So some last words about content. Create a content calendar before you even set up your sorry, from current slide. Whoops. Before you even set up your Facebook group, create a content calendar, dates and times to publish content by channel. In other words, you might use Facebook, you might use TikTok, you might use Instagram, you might use Twitter. Decide what you can do. You can schedule and post automatically via Hootsuite. You can repost very easily from one type of social media to another. So if you're on Twitter and you see something fantastic and you want to repost it to a u3a Facebook page, you can do that immediately, very easily. Sign up for weekly feeds from relevant sites like Restless, for example, or Age UK, so that you've got content. Sign up for Pinterest. You can always give it up if it doesn't work for you. And the final thing that's often overlooked is try and have somebody on your Facebook team of admins who's good with images, can take good photos and can manipulate them. So just resize and crop images. And if they have Photoshop or Paint, so much the better, but you don't need that. And the reason that I say this is because sites like Eventbrite, sites like Facebook, they like to have images roughly a particular size. So if you've got somebody who's good with images, that's great. So I think if we leave that there for now, I'll just stop my share, and then with Alan's permission, I'll go back to it later on. So Alan, I don't know if you want to take over now.
Yes, okay. Well, look, everybody, thanks very much, Jean, thanks. Everybody, if you've got questions, put it in the chat box. I'll pick the questions up and address them to Jean while she's fiddling, trying to find some more content. Jean, I've got a couple of questions to be going on with,
yeah.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned about open and closed groups in
Yes.
partway through. I suspect the most people would normally, given the choice, would normally start with a closed group.
Yes.
Because I know I've heard u3a saying we don't want abusive comments, we don't want to having to sort of field negativity, we don't want to have to deal with all of that. Whereas if we just deal with our own members and we use it as a communication channel within our own members, that's ideal. How do you deal with things like abusive comment and criticism and everything from outside?
If you're a member of a Facebook group, how often have you actually experienced that? I would say that I've never experienced that in a Facebook group. And actually, an admin can close down comments at any point. An admin can stop somebody posting in a Facebook group straight away. There is no problem doing that. You can just remove their rights to post. So I would say I've been a member of Facebook since Facebook started, which is, God, I mean, approaching what, 15, 20 years? I've never experienced that type of abuse on Facebook, and I'm probably a member of 20 or 30 Facebook groups. So I would say that that's paranoia. I think people talk a lot about trolling on online. I think a relatively few people have been victims of it. And if they are on Facebook, you just stop them posting. So it's as simple as that.
Okay, another one just before I go to the chat line. You talked about using images, and it seems, I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking a lot of these images are irrelevant to our core sort of topic. It's trivial, it's frivolous. In effect, it's subterfuge that it's using images really to sort of hide our main message and all of that lot. Why should we be doing that?
I think that your main message, I mean, it depends why you've set up the site in the first place. If it's literally a community site, it's social media. If people, like their pets, why shouldn't they promote something on there? And I think to start with, in any group, you've got to encourage people to exchange information And I will go, I'll set up one of the links that I was going to show to you. Unfortunately, I've inadvertently closed it down, but I will set it up and we can share it perhaps in a minute. I think people overestimate how serious people are online. And if you look at what goes viral online, what people like to share, it is actually images of dogs and cats and people being cheerful and people doing interesting and fun things. You don't join Facebook to have a serious time, but if you can give people the idea that the u3a is a sort of interesting and vibrant community who, you know, isn't afraid to discuss trivial items, if you'll forgive me saying so, like dogs and cats and fish and all the rest of it and pets, then I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Okay, last one from me. You mentioned about tagging. Well,
Yes.
what's that all about?
Oh, right. Hashtags you've probably heard of. And hashtags, it's simple. If you put a hash in front of a word, it's a way of gathering content around that word. So, for example, at Remembrance Time, you might put hashtag Poppy. And then every time somebody uses that hashtag Poppy, then that same content will gather around and attract, you know, the content that's used that hashtag, if you follow me. So it's a way of almost like a magnet, magnetizing other people who use that hashtag. So all that content that's hashtagged in the same way is gathered together. People often misuse hashtags. So if you really want content to be gathered around a hashtag has to be short, precise, not multiple words or multiple phrases. And certainly the u3a is absolutely notorious for using hashtags really badly. But if you want to use a hashtag well, make it short and to the point. So for you might use hashtag Remembrance Day because it's a very commonly used phrase, you know, around November time. You might use hashtag Poppy, but you've got to make your hashtags very obvious so that people who are posting the same sort of content that you might want to gather together all use the same hashtag.
Well, wasn't there something about tagging people as well? You mentioned at the beginning of the presentation.
Yes, you can hashtag people as well. So Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, hashtag Cristiano Ronaldo is a very common one. If you wanted to gather together all the content about a particular pop star, you know, use hashtag and their name.
No, it wasn't hashtags I was thinking about. It was tagging people like in photographs and or on a post, tagging someone else on that post.
Yes, you can. On Facebook, you can tag people. So if people are in a photograph, you can name them all. And then if they're tagged in a photograph, then a message is sent to them if they're on Facebook and they know they've been tagged in a photograph. So it can be a very handy thing to do.
Okay, let's go to the chat line then. Jeff,
somebody mentioned copyright, and that's
yes.
a real stick to beat people with. The position on copyright on social media is not very clear because people can copyright invests in the originator of the content. So for example, if somebody takes my photograph, they have the copyright because they've originated the photograph. I don't have the copyright just because it's an image of me. So that copyright owner, the person who owns that photograph, might choose to post it on social media. Now, if other people then repost it, arguably they're infringing that person's copyright. But if you put a copyright item on social media, then you are implicitly breaking copyright because nobody in their right mind would put a copyrighted item on social media, if you see what I mean, because it's going to be shared. So there have been some test cases in America about people posting copyrighted items on social media, and the copyright owner has tried to sue them because America is a very litigious society. And ultimately, they proved that the copyright owner had actually posted it on social media. Well, that's madness, because it's intended for sharing. So they betrayed their own copyright, if you like. You probably know, if you deal a lot with paintings, that certain paintings and images are copyright to various museums and art galleries and so on. But if you're giving, say, a talk about Vincent van Gogh, you have to show, you know, pictures, paintings painted by Vincent van Gogh. So copyright is a real issue. At the end of the day, I suppose you have to think about, is anybody going to take the time and trouble to sue me over this? There is a big difference between somebody locally infringing copyright by, for example, posting an image of a painting that's owned by a particular museum or art gallery, and, you know, an institution doing that. Copyright is a bit of a minefield, and it's almost impossible to police it on social media.
Okay, Jeff has put problem with visitor posts not displayed on open group. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know whether, Jeff, you can unmute yourself and explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, whenever a visitor posts on a Facebook group, you don't see the posts. When I Google it, you have to go some way to look for them. Where do visitor posts actually appear, Jean?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to come back to you on that one, because I'm certainly a visitor on some groups that I'm not a member of, and my posts appear to appear. But I'll take that offline and get back to you. And I'll test it. Yeah.
Jeff, if you send me your emails, send me an email with your address, and then I'll make sure we get a response to you.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay, we have another question from Kayla. I recently set up a public page under settings ticked anyone can post or comment, but in practice they can only comment, not post new items. Yeah. I found this these may go into notifications. On one occasion I was able to share this to page, but not sure how I did that. We all have that experience. Last time I clicked on an error thinking this would share, but it disappeared. Where has it gone? Any ideas, Jane?
Sorry, I ticked on an arrow, not an error. I ticked on an arrow and I must have deleted it and I can't find it now. Yeah, how do I? Yeah.
I suspect this is a page and not a group.
Yeah, I said that. I said it's a public.
Yeah. Which means that only admins can post on a page.
But under settings, it's in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Now, you know, do you allow people to post or comment? And it's in the same sentence. So how do I get, I mean, I can understand how Facebook have set it up, because it then means the admin has to sort of like give permission for a post. So people, but how on one occasion I was able to share something from notifications, but the other time I couldn't find a share option. So can you talk us through how we do that?
On a page, only an admin can post.
Yeah.
But a person who is not an admin, who goes to a page as opposed to a group, can comment and can like an admin's post, but they can't originate brand new posts of their own. So you can give them permission to comment or like, but they can't originate content. So they can respond to a content thread that has been started by an admin, but they can't start a new one of their own.
Yeah,
makes it really misleading.
Yeah, I understand all that, and that's working. But some people have tried to post and it's gone into notifications. How did I manage to share one of those onto the page?
Notifications are different from posts. So
yeah, because that's hidden, isn't it? Only the admin can see that. But how do we share something from notifications?
Well, if your admin page, you'll have to read your admin page, and it's I think it's down the left-hand menu. It will say notifications.
Yeah.
And then there'll be options for reposting. I mean, you might have to cut and paste at the end of the day, but I think you can repost a notification. If you're an admin, you can repost a notification.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how I did that.
You have to look at your admin page and look down the menu.
I've done all that.
All right.
But I don't know why it worked on one. There doesn't seem to be like a, when it worked, it actually showed that I had posted, but it showed who it had come from, which is what I wanted to do, that it wasn't an original post from the name, because obviously my name isn't on it anyway, my personal name, because it's a public page. Nobody knows that I'm the admin unless they know me or a part of the group, if you know what I mean. But when I did it successfully, right, it shows the person's name, but the last one, I mean, this is fairly new, you know, I'm new to doing a public, you know, these pages. I've had my own personal page for donkey's ears, but that's totally separate. When I clicked on the tick and the last one disappeared and I'm trying to find it, where will that have gone? Is there a deleted section or?
I don't know where your notification may have disappeared to, but it is probably worth saying that there are three things you can do. One, go onto your admin page and look at notifications, and there is the option to repost a notification, which you've done successfully once before. If you're absolutely baffled, there are two other options. One, somebody's already mentioned, Google. And the other one is, I'm actually a member of a Facebook group. Bear in mind, this is social media, where you can post your Facebook problems. So if you go onto Facebook, obviously there's Facebook help, but there are various Facebook forums where you can actually post a Facebook problem and you'll get people who suggest various solutions. So if all else fails, go onto Facebook, look up Facebook help forum, go into the help forum, post your problem, and I would post it on more than one Facebook help forum because there are quite a few of them. And what happens is people are on the, you know, members of the forum get notified that somebody's posted a problem on there and they all pile in with a solution. So that's certainly worth trying, because sometimes although Facebook help is very helpful, you don't know sort of how to phrase your problem, if you see what I mean. So these open Facebook help forums are quite helpful in that respect, because everybody has it. Yeah,
I was going to say, rather than get too detailed, I think isn't it your intention to do a follow-up for this for Facebook admins?
Yeah.
And then that's an opportunity where admins can get into much more detail.
But it does sometimes get that Facebook, you just can't work out what you've done wrong, and these Facebook forums can be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I go back right to the very beginning? I'm sure we've got some u3as here who don't have any experience of using Facebook, but are quite interested in the idea of setting up a Facebook page and an advert in order to attract new members. And you were saying earlier that the cost is quite cost effective, and that it potentially, even if it brings in only a small number, for a relatively small cost, that might be something to be thinking about. How would someone who knows absolutely nothing about Facebook, how would they start? I mean, presumably they download the Facebook app to start with.
Yeah, you just set up a Facebook account. Obviously, you're doing this for a page or a group, so you have to be a Facebook administrator to do it. And the Facebook admin pages guide you through. So across the top, you've got your name, and there's a plus next to your name. You click the plus and it says create advert, and then you just read the menus on the left hand side, which take you through the whole process step by step of creating a Facebook advert. And it also tells you as you go along what sort of level of response you're going to get for the amount of money that you want to spend. And I would suggest you put an amount in like £10 or £20, and it will tell you what you're going to get for that. And if you're not getting that, and typically you put 5 days in for the advert to run, you might put 10 days if you like, but you need to monitor it, because Facebook will report to you at the end of every day how your advert has performed. And if it's not performing as well as Facebook thought it might, Facebook will suggest to you changes that you might want to make in order to improve the performance of your advert. And there's no other advert system that does that for you, not even Google Ads. Google Ads are the next most cost-effective form of advertising, and even they don't do that for you.
When Facebook says something like you'll reach 300 people per day, I guess it's one difficulty that 300 may well be in the 18 to 25-year-old age bracket, which of course is no good for you.
No, you set your parameters. So age is one of the parameters that you can set. So you'd set it probably, I don't know, over 55. And then you'd only get the over 55-year-olds. One of the major problems about Facebook ads is, of course, they go to people of the right, so you select, where 10 miles of, cities, Barnsley or wherever you are, you select the age group, you select the type of interests that they've got, but a lot of people don't use their Facebook account. So about 10% of the people who receive the ad, whose account receives the ad, don't use their account anymore. Dormancy is a real problem on Facebook ads. So they take that into account in their algorithm.
And paying money, I guess it's a secure method of payments, is that?
It's either PayPal or credit card.
Or debit card.
Or debit card, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're not getting any more questions in the chat line. You're all very quiet today. Was there something else you wanted to set up, Jean?
Well, I thought it might be nice to show some really, what I think is quite inspiring content. And the problem that we often get is that people want to put really worthy content up. And the most fun content is the thing that gets the most hits. So I'd just like to share a little piece of content with you, if you don't mind. So I'll just share the screen. Right. I hope I've got it there. Right, let's just play this one. Whoops, full screen. Let me just get this out of the way. I've not got the sound on. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Right, so back to Alan. So I thought it was a really good example of people not taking themselves too seriously. And let's face it, the church needs some positive PR, and I think that's done amazingly well. It went completely viral.
So the message there is for our U3As to do something interesting, simple, doesn't need great athletic ability, doesn't need any great intelligence, just something simple that's appealing, that gets people to look at a page and think, oh, that's a pretty interesting organization. Let's join it. Is that the idea?
And there were dogs in that as well, you probably noticed.
Well, there seemed to be a very young guy in there as well. I don't know what he was doing in the priesthood.
I think he was probably choreographing the dancing. But jolly, upbeat, and a really great piece of content, I think.
Okay, well, look, we're going to leave it at that now. I think there's no more questions on the chat. Look, thanks very much, Jean, on behalf of everybody. It's given people a taster, I hope, a little bit of interest and variety in what Facebook can and can't do. People who are much more interested or admins will be setting up something in the next few weeks with Jean to look in much more detail at Facebook. So keep watching out. And in the meantime, if you've got any questions, drop me a line. Or Jean, what's your email? Do you want to give your email address out?
Well, I'll send the presentation out, which has got my email address on it.
Well, of course, this is an open invitation today, so we don't have an attendance list, but I'll make sure everything goes on the
website.
Everything will go on the West Midlands Region website under the events tab. So the presentation will be on there and Jean's details.
Oh, I'm just putting in the chat.
So if anybody wants to ask any direct questions or go into it in any more detail, I'm sure Jean, she's put her email address on the chat line there for you to pick up.
Yes, to let Jean know that if she visits Madeira, the airport is named after Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It is. A big statue outside the front of it as well, which is a dreadful statue, I seem to remember. A
dreadful one outside his hotel as well on the harbour side. He's a god over there.
Yeah. To be fair, he's a god everywhere in the football world, isn't he? So,
depends.
Look, thank you very much indeed, everybody. I really appreciate your attendance.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. It was wonderful.
Look out for the next one. Speak to you later.
Been very interesting.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.